Hi guys. So welcome back to the Sizzle with your host Lewis, and today I'm joined by Clint Edwards, who you've probably known from some K-pop interviews recently. So yeah, Clint, could you introduce yourself?
Clint, like you said, I am a journalist here in Seattle, Washington. I work for Fox 13 News, a local TV news station. I have a series here called K-pop Catch Up, where I've interviewed a ton of groups. I think at this point, there's over 80 interviews on that playlist on the website. And I just recently also started my own channel with a series called Fan Service, which is a little more laid back, a little more casual, talking to idols about their life, home and everything, a little more casual than, let's promote this album. So yeah, that's what
Sure.
I'm doing right now.
Nice. So how did you sort of get into K-pop and like K-pop journalism for that matter?
So K-pop journalism just kind of happened. I originally got into journalism. I studied film in college and I wanted to work in the film industry. I did that a lot, but I really needed a first job outside of college. So I saw a TV
Yeah.
station was hiring. I said, why not? So I did that. A very small market in Alabama. After a year and a half or so, I moved to Texas, and
Okay.
around that time was when I was getting into K-pop. And I was kind of just like, oh, it's the pandemic right now. It was 2020, and I was like, all these artists are doing Zoom interviews. So let me see if I could just email a company that has a small artist coming up, and that was with Omega X and their original company. So I reached out to them. And then after a week or so, I got an email saying, "Hey, we're connecting you with our PR." And I got my first interview. And since then, I've kind of just built the connections, and I've gone from just sending an email saying, "Hey, I would love to interview your artist, even though I have no experience whatsoever in that." So,
Nice. And so you mentioned sort of back in the pandemic is when you started like your interest in K-pop. Is there any artist or any song that sort of gained that interest?
so my K-pop journey has kind of been a long one. So a lot of people in America first discovered K-pop through Gangnam Style back in what, like 2012, 13 or something like
Yeah.
that. 2016 in college, I discovered BTS, like a lot of people. And Ailee specifically. Ailee is what kind of like got me into other artists.
Okay.
Still love her to this day. But 2019 it was the end of 2019. I had seen kind of, ITZY debut and CIX debut, and it was Astro, who they're my favorite group of all time. I have every album. They're the ones where I started consuming all their content, all the variety shows, all their vlog stuff, and that's what really when I got into for real, and started checking out everything. And now I have nearly 300 albums at this point. So
Okay.
yeah, I could probably say Astro started the love of the
Yeah.
genre for me.
Great. And sort of like with K-pop now, so you mentioned like in the past was Gangnam Style, Psy, which sort of like in the Western market started that uh K-culture phenomenon.
Mhm.
Are there any artists like today which sort of stand out above the rest for you?
Ooh, honestly, I listen to so many artists that
Okay.
I can't even choose one just because I'm listening to everyone. And I like to like especially like focus on smaller groups myself.
Yeah.
Because some of the bigger groups from like the big three or four, however many the big companies are now, I'm like they've got it, they're successful already. So I love focusing on the smaller groups who are so talented, and need more, you know,
Sure.
more eyes on them. And so that's why with my interviews, I love interviewing big groups like ATs and everyone, but I really love getting to start an idol's career being one of their first interviews.
Yeah,
So
that sounds
there's
great.
too many artists to really choose.
Yeah. So you mentioned there's sort of a lot of artists as well.
Mhm.
I wrote about in some of my articles like the K-pop industry is becoming a bit more saturated than it say once was. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on that?
Oh, 100%. it's way too oversaturated. And, back in the day, there were only a few big debuts we hear about, but now we have a new survival show every 6 months. We have
Right.
new groups from new companies all the time you haven't heard of. And it's very oversaturated. And now we've got all these big groups from other countries as well now coming in and being like, hey, it's not just K-pop now.
Yeah.
There's so many big P-pop groups, so many J-pop groups. It is very oversaturated. So standing out in the industry is a very difficult thing to do.
Sure.
Um, and because if you don't have one hit song, then this next group is going to come in and steal the light that you just had. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. And are there any sort of like K-pop trends evolving in the K-pop world, or like how do you stay on top of like all the new releases for your interviews?
Honestly, at this point, my my algorithm is just K-pop. Like at
Okay.
this point, I had to go out of my way to discover groups that are not K-pop.
Right.
Since I've been following it since 2016 and 2019 is when I really got into it. It's I'm caught up. Now, I will say today, like at this point, it's a lot more happening, and we've also got the seasons of comebacks too. We have so
Sure.
many summer comebacks. We have so many groups debuting. So at this point, I am usually caught up on everything, but that's just because all of my algorithms on every social media is nonstop K-pop.
Okay.
So it's very hard keeping up with it. People that work in it, like we get all the press releases, but still I'll see a press release and I'm like, wait. Oh, I forgot this group came out. Sure, yeah, let's do an interview. We'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand. And what's one thing about the K-pop industry that you think most sort of Western audiences misunderstand or perhaps don't realize?
Well, I think a lot of what we see in the West, if people know nothing, is they just see kind of like the dark side of K-pop content. They see the documentaries that like BBC or someone will do about, the training, the hours and everything.
Yeah.
Or they're just familiar with Blackpink and BTS and everything. But I think what they don't see are the idols themselves. They think of them as a product, and as someone that works in it, someone that consumes the media, these artists are kind of products of their company, but that's really kind of all they see. They don't really see the work that these artists are putting in, not just, in the training, but trying to stand out. They're on stage smiling, but they're like, hey, because this other group is from a big company, I don't have as much of a shot.
Sure.
Um, yeah, and it's just kind of like they from the Western perspective in America, it's we only really know BTS, Blackpink, and now I mean we got K-pop Demon Hunters now, which is bringing a little more substance to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that they're just not seeing the artist as artists. I think they're just seeing them as a product.
Okay.
Um, and that's something they don't really understand. But if it's not something you're seeing the behind the scenes content of, I can understand why they would only latch on to that stuff.
Sure. And sort of out of all the interviews that you've done, has there been any sort of like challenging interview or a more memorable interview from an artist?
Ooh. Honestly, I do so many, and I do so many like repeat interviews. I feel
Okay.
like a lot of people will just do one interview with this group and they'll kind of call it quits. But
Yeah.
my favorite thing is getting an artist from the beginning. Like Omega X, the group I started with, I just interviewed their first unit, OXN, 2 days ago.
Okay.
Um, and so it's been 4 years, I'm still interviewing them, Even, which is another group, I have all their signed albums. I've interviewed them for every single release too. Instead of like just one big interview, I'd probably say it's just seeing them grow. But if I had to choose the most memorable for like a cool reason. NCT Dream was my first ever in-person interview, which was wild.
Yeah.
I reached out to the venue. I was like, "Hey, I would love to shoot photos, something. I was not expecting anything. They were just kind of like, "Oh, do you want to see if we can get an interview?" So
Oh,
I
great.
went backstage to a little green room and they come in walking, looking like they do, like so like perfect and like they just came out of the music video.
Yeah,
So that was probably the most memorable just because it was so shocking of an experience. But they were such nice guys who make such great music, and I will always remember that time.
that's great. And you mentioned as well now you've started your own channel. Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, your own channel. And previously worked with the K-pop show for Fox. What sort of the day-to-day uh running like for you with your K-pop show?
Yeah, so I still have both. The only thing with Fox 13, K-pop is nowhere in my job description.
Okay.
It's really not my job. I'm a
Yeah.
video journalist, so what you would think of is just the camera guy. So I'm with a
Right.
reporter. I'm filming the news, the breaking news, editing the interviews, doing the live shot for the reporter. But I just love K-pop. And
Yeah.
so I was just like, hey, when I came to Fox 13, I was like, hey, I have already done. Hold on, let me start to get this. Yeah, I've
Okay.
already done a couple of interviews. Would you guys want this for the station? So that sure, if you have that, we'll put it up on the channel and everything. So yeah, K-pop is not in my job description. I do it outside of my normal duties. I'll wake
Sure.
up at 5 a.m., do an interview with an artist, sleep for a couple hours, then go to work. And then I'll come
Oh wow.
home and I may edit that interview.
Yeah.
So really all my K-pop content is done outside of work. It's done at home. This is in my little studio apartment. I
Okay.
do all the interview questions. I do all the editing, the writing of the articles, the thumbnail making, literally from the start to finish. I just do it in my free time.
Yeah. No, so it sounds more like a passion as well, like outside of work, which is
Yeah, it's definitely a passion project, but that's also why I wanted to start my own channel because I've been doing this for 4 years total, and for Fox it's been 3 years of that time.
okay.
Um, but I really wanted something that was just kind of mine because
Yeah.
now I do it all. It goes up on the station and everything. It gets a lot of eyes having that name attached to it.
Mm.
But I really wanted to have something that was kind of my own attached to my name where I had a little more freedom with editing or, putting stuff in and everything.
Yeah.
And that's why I started that series is because sometimes with a K-pop interview for a news station, I'm promoting the album. I'm
Okay.
doing something with that, but I want to know as a fan the backstory. I want to know the life journey of that idol from whatever small town or they came from
Right.
to Seoul doing that. I want to know that story, but it didn't make sense doing that for Fox 13. So I was like, let me start my own channel where I can ask those questions.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what my series fan service is about.
No, it sounds great. I've seen a few that you put
Mhm.
out, so I'll be looking out for them. Um,
Oh yeah, for sure.
and you mentioned as well about being like an Emmy nominated
Mhm.
journalist with Fox 13. How did
Mhm.
that come about?
So I got the Emmy nomination when I was in Texas, and it
Okay,
actually has nothing to do with K-pop whatsoever.
sure.
Yeah, because there's Emmys for TV, film, and everything, and there's Emmys for news and journalism.
Okay.
And yeah, like I said, it has nothing to do with K-pop. It was for a story during a big winter storm we had, and how it was
Oh
putting a
yeah.
lot of people out, and they just had nowhere to go. Yeah, so it's an Emmy nomination for that. Unfortunately, did not win. And
Okay.
I haven't really submitted for too many else. They're really expensive to submit for. So I
Right.
would love to have a trophy here one day, but unfortunately, there's not like a K-pop interview series category. But once we
Okay.
have that, I will be submitting. Hopefully, we'll have that trophy right here.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that in the not too distant future.
Me too. Me too.
And in terms of Korea, have you been to Korea or do you have any plans to come to Korea?
I am going for the first time in October. I will be there for 2 weeks solo. So I'm
Okay.
very nervous,
Yeah.
a little nervous. I've taken like Korean like language lessons over the last few years. However, I've also moved, and so like I had to stop taking my in-person classes, and then just like learning
Right.
a new language when I'm doing all this work is a little difficult. So it's like I think I could get around, but I'm very excited to go there just because I've met with so many people on Zoom over
Mm.
the years. I'm very excited to see kind of what it's like there in person after following the content for so long.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And do you have any sort of final words for the readers or the viewers
Yeah, I mean,
K-pop?
I get asked a lot by people who want to get into K-pop, and they're always asking for my advice on stuff. But the only thing I can say, because I had like kind of a nepotism journey of I already work for a TV station,
Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest question is like, hey, how can I do what you're doing with this content that I love if I don't have the experience or, I don't work for TV?
Sure.
But like the final words I have for everybody is just like if there's something that you want to do, if there's something you're passionate about, you have to start it on your own. So it's like me, I was just kind of like, hey, let me see if I could do this. So I sent emails.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people feel like they can't do it because they don't have that credential or something. But starting your own content, like a YouTube channel, a TikTok account, especially
Yeah.
with K-pop, uh, people love seeing fans do interviews and everything. So if you could build a platform for yourself, it's a lot easier and more fulfilling knowing that you did it on your own.
Yeah. No, I think so as well. Like you said, you had that credibility
Mhm.
for yourself and something to lead into in the future as well.
For sure,
So
yeah.
yeah, well, thank you for your time today.